Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This meeting is of the Town of Auburn School Committee. It's being conducted in person and is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. All are welcome to join in person here at 5 West Street. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body is available on the town's website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Thank you. Can we all please rise for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The vision of the Auburn Public Schools is to educate and prepare students for the opportunities and challenges of a changing world. Our commitment: we'll create, maintain, and support an environment that fosters a sense of belonging for all students in our schools, respecting race, color, sex, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, homelessness, poverty, spoken language, and ability. Do we have any citizen comments? All right, we'll move on to special recognitions.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, for this evening. Just as an announcement to let folks know that on New Year's Day, we had 3 Auburn High School students, Calla Anderson, Carson Rassicot, and Claire Smith, march as part of the New England Honors Band in the Rose Bowl Parade, which was really an awesome event, if any of you watch it on New Year's, so we're proud of them. And we'd also like to congratulate Ben Miola and Logan Plum for their acceptance into the New England Music Festival Honor Band. Ben and Logan will join top musicians from all around New England at the festival in March. Logan received the second highest score and will be sitting principal trombone in the concert band. So nicely done to all of those students.
All right, next is the minutes. I'm seeking a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from 12/18/2024.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, no student reps tonight.
We thought they were coming, but, okay, all right, nope, they can't make it tonight.
All right, superintendent's report, student spotlight.
All right, we'll move on to Student Spotlight. This evening, we have some folks here from Bryn Mawr School who are going to talk about universal design in English language arts. So I'll let Mrs. Beverly, Ms. Finuccio, Ms. Rourke, and we have Brady Hamilton and Lila Powell all set to present.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Jessica Rourke. I'm a first grade teacher at Bryn Mawr School and a UDL coach as well.
And I'm Dawn Finuccio, reading specialist and the other UDL coach.
We'd also like to introduce our student representatives, Brady Hamilton and Lila Powell. So tonight we're going to share with you all the wonderful UDL happenings at Bryn Mawr School and in our classroom as well.
All right, so as you likely know, we are in our 4th year of Auburn's UDL initiative. Universal Design for Learning is a framework to improve and optimize teaching and learning for all people based on the science of how we learn. This approach offers flexibility in the ways students access material, engage with it, and show what they know. Just so you're aware, we don't use the term UDL with our students at our level. We use a lot of, best choice for me, what helps me learn. And one of the goals of UDL is learner agency. And rather than just giving students knowledge, we want students to be active participants in their learning. Learner agency helps students become more confident, engaged, and effective learners. So we feel that at the pre-K to 2 level, we are the building blocks for creating these routines so that students can move ahead and go forward in the upper grades with more UDL practices.
So Mrs. Finuccio and I are going to discuss how we incorporate UDL into our ELA block. So you were each given the Universal for Design for Learning guidelines. The guidelines offer a set of concrete suggestions that can be applied to any discipline domain to ensure that learners can access and participate in meaningful, challenging learning opportunities. It's a tool for educators to help them implement UDL. It offers suggestions and ways for them to incorporate UDL throughout the classroom. So during our presentation, you'll see the slide number noted on the guidelines. Those are some of the examples you'll see tonight where we address those principles and the considerations that are associated in the guidelines. So, okay. So this is an example of a lesson that we're going to talk about this evening. So this is utilizing our Wonders program, our reading program Wonders. The students were asked to identify the character, setting, and events in a story. The story was called The Pig, the Wolf, and the Mud. So it's an adapted version of The Three Little Pigs. As you can see, we have the clear, firm goal addressed for the kids to see what we're asking them to do. This is the what. I can identify characters, setting, events in a story. And then the UDL is how. How can they show that? How can they demonstrate their understanding? So students were given multiple opportunities. They could draw the characters, setting, and events in the story. They could write about it through the use of a word bank as well. Some students choose to use the word bank. Some students use the book. They have either choice. And they also are able to decide how they would like to work, what works best for them. We talk about being your best learner. Is it best for you to work with a buddy when you're completing an activity? Is it best for you to work independently? Or do you feel like you need a little more guidance and you start off with a teacher? Sometimes students start off with a teacher and stay with the teacher. Some students start off with a teacher and get going, and then they go off by themselves or they go off with a buddy. So providing choices and giving students voice in their learning really helps to break down barriers for students when they're trying to meet a goal. I can identify characters, setting, and events. For some students, drawing, that's the way they're going to show you. For some students, writing, that's the way that they're going to show you. And some students working with a buddy, working alone, that's the best choice for them. So you'll see in the guidelines that under the principal engagement, you're identifying a firm goal, you're optimizing choice for your students, and you're allowing for collective learning. Additionally, we always have like what you need now so that students know exactly the expectation, what they need to get themselves ready. It's just a visual support. So there's no question about how they can be prepared for the lesson. Along with the story, The Pigs, the Wolf, and the Mud, students were also asked to reread the story, and they had choice on how it was represented to them. They could scan a QR code and listen to the story online. They could read again with a buddy or by themselves, or again, they could work in a small group with a teacher. So this just offered students another choice on how they could access the material. We want them to reread, but which way was best for them.
All right, so then what we did with the students was we took this story from our Wonders anthology and we wrote it as a play. Students were given parts, they practiced and rehearsed in the classroom with small groups, and then they got to perform to a kindergarten classroom. So this gave students the opportunity to collaborate with their classmates. One of the guidelines in UDL standards are nurturing play and joy. So we definitely had that covered because they absolutely loved it. They could use expression and movement to demonstrate their understanding of the story. So we have some photos there of some of our friends. And so now we want to invite Brady and Lila up to kind of give us their perspective.
I think you can bend it a little bit, just be gentle. There we go, that's good. They'll hear them.
So we have slowly introduced and practiced different ways to retell a story. Our choices have included drawing about it, writing about it, and acting it out. The students are going to tell us a little about how they feel. Lila, what choice do you like best from the choices we had in reading?
I like acting out the story. It makes me happy and the other kids enjoy it.
Okay, and then within these options, students also have the option to work alone, with a partner, or with a teacher. So Brady, you told me that you like often working with a partner. Why is that?
Because 2 sets of eyes are better than 1.
Brady, what happens if you get stuck when you're working?
I can ask a friend for help, or I can join the teacher's group.
All right, Lila, what about you? How do you usually like working?
I like working on my own to challenge myself. I try not to use the word bank.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about writing. What are some different choices you have in writing? Brady?
We have paper choices with different lines.
We can draw, write, or do both to show what we know.
Sometimes there is a sentence starter on the board if we need it.
All right, so do you like having choices?
Yes, it helps me be the best learner I could be.
All right, Layla, how would you feel if you didn't have these options?
I would freak out with no choice.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great job, guys. Nice. Okay. So now we're going to talk a little bit about UDL in action in Bryn Mawr, how other teachers and other classes are using UDL.
So we had some of our other teachers share some of their slides. This example shows a second grade classroom, how they have their visual to-do list for arrival. There's a visual timer on there and a note of how they're feeling. I believe the classroom this came from, there are little magnets that have numbers that represent each student, so they can just put their little magnet up. So that gives the classroom teacher like a quick glance of what's going on here, you know? So that really helps support emotional capacity and by developing an awareness of themselves and others in the classroom.
This is in kindergarten. So on this slide, you'll see kindergarten students getting choice in their writing. Students were asked to write about their winter break. They could draw a small moment. They could write about it, or they could draw a few snapshots of their winter break. So this also fosters students' voice and choice. For some students, it's best that they just draw to show how their winter break went, and for others, they might just want to write about it.
Excuse me. And here is another example. This shows how we foster belonging and community and promote reflection. This summer, several teachers from our school were trained in restorative circle practices. So the teachers who received this training are incorporating the restorative circle into their weekly lesson. So this helps engagement by fostering collaboration. It cultivates empathy and student reflection based on the question or topic.
Here you'll see we call math seats for success. A lot of teachers are utilizing this. So students are introduced a topic or skill, and then they choose how to access it through independent practice. How do they learn best? Again, they can do partner work with a teacher, independent work. And additionally, what second grade is starting to do to use feedback. They have a QR code to scan so students can self-correct their work independently, which just helps them just build more independence in the classroom. So this falls under action and expression.
All right. So in conclusion, as we said, the goal of UDL is learner agencies. So these building blocks that we are providing here at Bryn Mawr School are going to help the students as they move forward in the upper grades. We believe that what we are doing is helping our students to become more self-aware about themselves as learners, which we definitely, I think, that Brady and Lila have demonstrated. They're learning how to make the best choices to support their learning, and also to learn that that's flexible. It's not going to be the same at every day. So we hope we've given you a little glimpse of some of the great things that are happening at Bryn Mawr related to our UDL initiative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any questions?
Through the chair, I actually have one. That math one at the end, was that for second grade?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Second grade.
That's wild, though. They can just figure out how to QR code and self-check that. I couldn't do that in second grade. I'm just saying.
It takes a little practice at first.
Yeah.
All of the choices and all of the things takes a little practice, but they learn quick. Yeah, they get it quick. It's
Different
great.
world. That's all I'm saying. 7, that was not what I was doing at 7 or 8. Yeah.
I kind of want to go back to elementary school.
I mean, it
Actually
looks like
decide how you want to learn. Wow, and it's like unfathomable.
I was just going to say it's nice for them to have choices.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
great.
great.
Yeah.
Well, and I just have to say, so you know I've been singing this UDL song for a number of years, as well as now with restorative practice. And it is amazing to see it come together, to see our students talking about this.
And, I'd love to come see a class sometime if there's ever an invitation to come in just to sit and observe. But I do think this is transformational for kids learning, right? That idea of that agency that you're giving to them by the work you're putting in. And, no joke, this is not easy to do. So we know that there's a lot of work that goes behind all this preparation for all of this. So thank you for that. And to our friends who came today, we'd like to say thank you for them. If they'd like to come up and shake our hands for being so brave to come and talk to us tonight.
Absolutely.
Great job. Great, you did a great job.
Nice job. Thank you.
Nicely
Good
done.
job.
Great readers. Awesome. Come on. Come on.
Great job.
Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it. Nicely done. Nicely done. Excellent job.
They make it come alive.
Great job. And with that, you are all free to go. Thank you so much. That was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We want to jump down and let Glenn go next.
Yeah.
And then we can go back to the budget. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. We appreciate it.
Stay warm.
Nicely done. Great job.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Better than it being freezing last year.
Great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Good job, Ray. Bye.
Thank you.
Good job.
a great
Ray.
night.
See you Saturday. See ya. He's on Roland's basketball team.
Oh, cute.
Cute.
All right, we're going to jump down to new business. New director of facilities.
Thank you. Yes, we'd like to, this evening, we have with us Glenn Gregoire, the new director of facilities for the Auburn Public Schools. He began with us on December 2nd. Glenn's just going to take a few minutes to introduce himself to the committee and to the community. Come on up.
No pressure.
Good
have
evening.
to follow.
First, I want to say, I mean, I got to follow that.
Yeah.
She didn't prepare me for that at all. That I'm two superstars in the school system. They're gonna, go set the bar for me right away. They were great, and that's really a big reason why I'm here. I'm glad to be back in the district and be around the kids again. It's a lot of fun to walk through the classrooms. So first of all, I want to thank you all, the school committee and Dr. Chamberlain, Alan, and Jennifer for the opportunity to come here. It's been a great experience to work with Joe the past month, get his insights into the buildings and the operations. Replacing 20 plus years of experience is never easy. It's just amazing that to handle a school system of this size, keep them on budget, keep them in great operational shape, and have such a wonderful staff. Very fortunate to inherit a staff of lead custodians that take ownership of the buildings. So often in the workplace for what I do and what we do, you just don't see that. They come in, do the job, and they go. But our staff is very responsive to what's happening. The support staff below them as well, their communication amongst each other, amongst myself on the weekends, always available, stepping in when that need arises to handle the schools has been great. The systems that they have in place here, at least finally after the past month, I'm pretty comfortable with those. And what's happening. My work experience itself has put me in a position to be able to handle the automated logic system, which is where I'll be going when I leave here. It's just to make sure the buildings are doing okay temperature-wise, and hopefully we don't have any breakdowns. I am MCPPO certified. I received my designation this year. I am a very strict financial conservative. I think that'll make you guys feel a little bit better. I'm not somebody who goes out and spends a lot of money. I understand the financial constraints that the school systems are under and how we operate. I always try to look at the balance between what are we buying for chemicals and processes, what do we have for equipment, because our single biggest cost always is the staff that we have on hand. So I try to work with them and keep an eye on what they need for tooling to make sure that they're efficient in what they're doing. The biggest system I have left now is Munis. I will say that's probably the weakest point I have, so I'll be leaning very heavily on Jennifer and Lisa in the next week to get more familiar with that. It's nice to be here. I think it's leadership develops great people. Leadership develops great places to work. I've had the opportunity now to interview with all the principals, talk with them, see what their building needs are, and what their future plans are, what they would like to have for the buildings. And they take a conservative approach. You know, I was very relieved not to hear long pages and lists of what do we need and what do we want to do. They've been very happy with the system, so don't break it, I think has been the biggest message I've received from them. But just keep it operational, take care of the little things, make sure the security is there in place and be responsive to their needs. So I feel very comfortable saying that I can meet all those needs for them. It's been very, very fun so far. I don't want to be too long. So do you have any questions as far as for what I've done in the past or anything you'd like to know more about me?
Any questions?
I will say that Glenn has stepped in. It was nice. We had the transition time with Joe. But he brings with him an awful lot of knowledge. So we're very lucky to have somebody that has the background that he has, making sure our buildings are warm. He's been very pleased. We've had no leaks anywhere because he's been in other places where leaks have been a problem. I know not.
Roofs are great.
Yeah. I'm sure you'll hear more about him, but we are very happy to have him. And so far, so good. I think we're off to a really good start. So
Great to be here.
awesome.
All right. With that, I'm going to go check some systems because that's what we're looking at. Oh, wait.
There you go. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you. Good night. Have a good one. All right, we're going to move back up to unfinished business and the FY26 budget.
Thank you. So as you know, we've met about this multiple times throughout the fall. We did not give you another copy of the budget. It did not change from the last time. So I am asking you to move forward the FY26 draft budget at a 5.7% increase from the FY25 amended school budget, which represents an overall increase of $1,795,994.10. I don't know if anyone had any questions.
Through the chair, I just had one small thing because I read through it again and I couldn't remember if it was said or it was planning for the future. Did the budget include a teacher? We were looking for a teacher.
There are two new positions in the budget.
Okay.
One is a special education teacher.
Yep, that one I
That's
remember.
Swanson Road, and the other one was a speech pathologist.
Okay. That's the one I couldn't find, and that is in this budget, right?
It would have been in pupil services.
In pupil
It wouldn't be
services,
in one
okay.
of the schools. It would be listed in pupil services.
yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the only one. I remember the special needs, and then there was one more, and then I was like, and I was looking through it, and I was trying to find the line, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'll just ask as long as it's in there. I love that.
Yes. Yes.
I didn't make it up and dream about it and add it, so that was good. Okay. So then, yes.
Even
Great.
no matter how many times I've looked at it once, I'm like, where is that?
Yeah, I that was the
So
only
many
thing I
lines,
couldn't
yeah.
find, and I just was like, did I make it up? I might have made it up. I'm just gonna ask. Okay, great.
Any other questions? All right, I'll seek a motion.
I'll make a motion to vote to approve and send forward to the town of Auburn the FY26 budget as presented by the superintendent.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I will say, as an addendum, this still has to go before the town, so it could be back before you again. We will wait and see how that goes. And I hope to be able to express to them the variables that lay before us related to enrollment and those kind of things. So we'll see where we end up. The next item of policy updates, which is the second read of the Title IX sexual harassment, sexual and sex-based harassment and the non-discrimination policy. There was an error. There was a question about a previous policy. There was one for, I believe it was the ACR non-discrimination policy. So Mandy sent that on to you before. So that is there. I didn't know if anyone had any questions. I will tell you that if we end up in a position with a case of discrimination or sexual harassment, if you've read these policies, they're pretty complicated. I have to believe that we would be involving counsel in any situation like this, because it is a lot, I think, to put on a school district to manage the ins and outs of this, and certainly we want people to be well protected and well represented. So I do believe that if we were to encounter this, counsel would be involved as well.
Through the chair, I have a question. For the ACAB, it seems like the current policy, it seems like the newer policy is more all-encompassing. Is that correct? Because it seems like it said student to student harassment, employee to student harassment in the current. But in the new one, it doesn't define it as specifically.
Yeah,
So it
I
seems
think-
like it opens, it makes it a bit more like all encompassing.
Right, and I think then some of the specifics you talk about are laid out in the nuts and bolts of what has to happen if there's an investigation. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just seemed like it was like, I got to that point, I was like, whoa, what, how did I get there so fast? And then
Yeah.
this one seemed like seemed like the new policy is much better. And it's also adding like male, female, gender non-conforming, which the original policy didn't seem to have, so.
Yeah,
that's
and
good.
one where there was an emphasis on pregnant students as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good, seems to be a lot more, like I said, all encompassing.
it is encompassing and complicated all at the same time.
Yeah, I can't
for sure.
imagine we wouldn't have counsel.
No, so.
I think it's implied on one of the paragraphs when it goes to appeal or something like that. I feel like there was something about with representation, or it was implied
Yep.
representation or something like that. So.
But these are the kind of things that you just can't navigate anymore. I wasn't trained
Absolutely
in
not.
following through on legal processes, you know? You just have to have help.
Yep.
Yeah. And even though, and it also like specifically mentions, the new one mentions like MGLC 151B. So like there's so many more parameters to that, so.
Yeah. All right, so that will come before you one more time. And the next item is just my mid-year goals update for this year, so I won't spend too much time, but I did just put a brief update for each of the goals. So as far as the student learning goal goes, this was about data meetings and data practices and making sure we're using data to drive instruction. Everyone has gone through an MCAS review with all staff. We've had regular meetings with principals. We're in the process of setting up our mid-year data meetings with principals, Alan and myself. So they'll meet with their staffs, they'll go through them, and then we'll kind of go through their summaries and what they're finding. We've placed a lot of emphasis on supporting our students with special needs, so we're interested to see where we arrive with that. Again, at the elementary, iReady data will be used there. We're also doing a root cause analysis at Auburn Middle School. This is part of the tiered focus monitoring that we're going through there. And Greg Walton just got some really good feedback from the state on the process that we're going through and what we're finding. We really need to ramp up our opportunities for writing for our kids at the middle school across curriculum areas. And so they're putting some things in place with that. So that's a good step forward. And the middle school is also piloting the use of iReady. They've not had that as kind of a benchmarking tool. So we'll be looking at those results as well. So we've made some progress there. Now we need to see this mid-year results of our kids. So that'll happen in the next few weeks. My professional practice goal is related to the new superintendent induction program. This year, it's held more as a consultancy, so we've been meeting in each of our districts. There are 4 of us in the group. Where we go, we bring together problems of practice. We still meet with our mentor, so I've attended the meetings that have taken place thus far this year. There'll be another one next week, so I'll stay up to date with that. The next goal is about deepening our knowledge around bias and racism. And so I just gave you some topics from our principal meeting agendas that we've covered. We had quite a lengthy discussion related to the graffiti that was found at Auburn High School several weeks ago. We've been talking about using scheduling to leverage student outcomes based on certain groups of students who may or may not be getting what they need. We continue to talk about our newly arrived students and the impact of what we do on our students in the shelter, religious holidays and expectations for students, and making sure that we're being inclusive about considering other religions and how that might impact a student's ability to complete work. I've shared out guidance we've received from Governor Healy and Attorney General Campbell on combating hate in our schools. We spent a lot of time talking about that. There was a lot of talk for a long time strictly around bullying, and they've really expanded that to harassment, which can be considered a one-time thing that can be considered harassment, where bullying always had to be kind of that repeated event. So they're expanding that. We continue to look at our bullying protocol, Lenny Learning that we've brought on for a curriculum. We've talked about that and the lessons actually Alan's going to talk about later this evening with the things that we've been able to bring to kids to help under this. we had a long discussion about it. There was an article of a local school district who had a really bad bullying situation in their district. And it wasn't to look at the district in a negative way, but to say, what can we learn from this should something like this ever occur here? So we're really trying to build a reflective, ongoing process around these issues that can arise.
Beth, could you share that article with us
Sure.
when you get a chance?
Yes.
I'd be interested to read it.
Yes. The first district improvement goal was related to teacher evaluation. We've heard from teachers that it's not been all that meaningful, and that it could be done better and more rigorously, I guess. So we've all been taking rethinking teacher supervision, coaching and evaluation with Kim Marshall. That's been it's a virtual course that we've been going through. So there were some courses taking place. Everyone received his new book, and we've kind of been pulling out excerpts of that so that we're talking about what is good feedback, when is it powerful, how can we make it better, not only with the timing, but certainly also with the content. So that's been something we just talked about it today at our principal meeting this morning. The next one is around updates to the strategic plan. So I did 4 last year. I just had one go out again this year, and there'll be another one at my next, not the next superintendent's update, but the one after that. So every other, I'll be putting out some updates. And we have made some really good progress on that. So things are moving along. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions?
Sorry, through the chair, you said, when you're talking about we are conducting a root cause analysis of AMS related to the performance students with special needs, are we looking at MCAS data and seeing that the special needs kids are not writing, like they're falling below? Is that what we're
Well,
saying?
we're looking at they're not performing where they should be performing. And so why is that? One of the things we found out of that conversation was that they're just not writing enough.
Yeah.
They're not writing in the content areas enough. They're not writing in ELA enough, right? There is some writing, but trying to build in that feedback cycle. We're looking at bringing empowering writers up through the middle school next year. So
Yeah, it's interesting. I just wanted clarification on that because it's interesting because it seems to be like a common theme across that a lot of students did not do well specifically on the written part of the MCAS. And that's what we're seeing is like, they're doing well on the multiple choice, but when you get to the writing part, you're like, oh, and that's where we're losing a lot of points and stuff. And because of this like long sustained writing that requires them to like put more than a paragraph together, which seems to be a struggle. And I know looking at, my own child's MCAS, she's like, I didn't even get to the writing part. And I'm like, oh no.
yeah, I will say that writing, a lot of teachers haven't received a lot of instruction in the teaching of writing.
True.
Right? And so we are looking to provide some of those supports to them as well. I mean, and I say that, very broadly. Many of our teachers are very skilled at it, right? But it is a complicated skill to teach. There are so many nuances to it and how you really get kids to move forward. So we think that programmatically, if we bring something in, that will also provide some PD around that I think will help everyone.
From the educator side, like many of us, when we went through our teaching program, like we were never taught this is how you teach how to write.
Yeah.
And so you kind of always like left that up to the ELA teachers. But in addition, part of writing is giving feedback and showing the students like how they can improve, why did you only get this grade and this is why. So a lot of it is not only like do we not know how to teach writing, but we also kind of lack the concept of like how to give proper feedback that's going to help them learn and grow.
Yeah. And that's not just about mechanics.
No,
Right? Because mechanics feedback is easy to give back. Well, you don't have a period, you don't have a capital letter, you spelt this wrong. But that kind of idea development or,
And I never looked at that as a bad thing when someone's like, well, no one taught you how to teach writing. I'm like, you're right. No one did teach me how to teach writing.
Yeah.
It's not like a ding against the teachers. It's more of a let's like help us help.
Yeah,
help us
because
help
it's
them.
really complicated, and what each student needs is completely different from the next student. So it's a very complex thing to teach.
One of the drawbacks of going to technology, I guess,
Yes.
too, not having that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're now back to new business again.
And so in your packet, you have the Assabet Valley Collaborative Annual and Audit Report. This is something that is given out to you each year for your review. It is required by law that, because we're part of that collaborative, that we share this information with you. It is gone through by the Board of Directors on which I sit. We sat with the auditor and went through everything. Assabet Valley's done a nice job of pulling their finances together, and they offer some terrific programming. We've taken advantage of some of their professional development related to restorative practices, off and on. So I don't know if you have any questions about it, but it is a perfunctory task that we present to you. Okay, the next item is a portrait or vision of a graduate. So several years ago, I don't know where we are now, year 4 or 5, outside of our NEASC evaluation, who comes to the high school and they evaluate lots of things about programming there. Part of that came out several years ago, we were tasked to begin to develop the portrait or vision of a graduate for the Auburn Public Schools. At that time and ongoing, there has been some work done related to that with staff at the high school. However, typically when a district develops a portrait or vision of a graduate, they develop it for a student from pre-K to 12. So what are the competencies? What are the big bucket skills that we want all our kids to have, right? Be a good communicator as an example, right? We want all our kids, whether they're 5 or 18, to be a good communicator. And so you would identify 5 or 6 of those kind of big bucket skills that we want all our kids to have. And then what happens is at each level, you back that out. So what does it look like at Bryn Mawr or Packagug to be a good communicator? And what does it look like at Auburn High School to be a good communicator? And so then along the way, you're measuring the same thing a little bit differently, but you're looking at all of that. So there was a recent survey that they sent out to the staff around some of what these buckets might be. There'll be a survey that will go out to families. There'll be a survey that will go to particularly high school and maybe middle school students to kind of get some feedback from them. And then there'll be more of a gathering to kind of come together to tease that out and narrow it down. So I just wanted to let you know that it is on path and on track. And something that's very exciting. If you Google it, many districts have already done this, some better than others, right? I think the more complicated it gets, the less effective it is. You see some that seem so simple, and then when you read it, it's like, well, that really makes sense when you're talking about kids from pre-K to 12, right? You can't muddy the water too much because they're so different. Yeah. So it's kind of exciting. Spencer Kennard and Melissa LeBone were all involved in the NEASC visit, so they're kind of leading the charge on this. So more to come. I just wanted to put it on your radar.
Through the chair, I like the communication one. Can that be one? I think that's like such a beautiful picture from K to 12, like how drastically that changes. Just that one thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
and how you can work on that skill with kids at both of those levels.
Every single,
Yeah.
going from egocentric and now they're like,
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah.
We should use that one.
The next item is about the competency determination. So I suspect you're all aware that in the last election, there was a vote about MCAS. And the vote was to whether or not to continue to use MCAS as the benchmark for the competency determination for high school students, which happens after their sophomore year. They're given this competency determination. It was always based on MCAS. Well, it is now, by vote of the people, we are no longer able to use MCAS as the competency for the competency determination. However, we still have to make that determination as to whether or not they are competent. So Mr. Keller and I have been working with Mr. DeLongchamp and Ms. LeBome at the high school to figure out what we're going to do. Now, I will tell you in large part, everything I've seen from other districts is primarily looking at, by the time you finish your sophomore year, you've passed 2 maths, 2 English, and one of the recommended sciences, which for us has always been biology, right? Because it was that coursework along with the MCAS that was the expectation. So DESE has left this to the districts. So every district may have a different competency determination. And they have basically said that they, for all intents and purposes, they're not coming out with anything standardized according to this, which is, I don't know, troubling to me in a number of ways where you talk about equity across the state, right? If that's ours, but somebody else's is something like, where's the equity in that? So we will be bringing forward to you for your approval, probably at the next meeting, what we're going to recommend at this time with what we know, with where things stand, And seemingly it would be that, 2 math, 2 English, and one of the sciences that are recommended. But more to come on that, and there will be something formal for you. But it really has, and at this point in time, from what I know from Mr. DeLongchamp, we do not have any students that are going to be impacted by this year. So some districts may have kids who didn't pass the MCAS now when they've had their chance to take it this year. And they may or may not have the coursework that they need to now get the competency determination. And for some kids, that can kind of linger, and that can impact their ultimate graduation, because you have to have your competency determination in order to graduate. We do not have any students that will be impacted in that way, thankfully. That's why there's not a huge rush to get this kind of done, because at this point, based on kids that have taken the MCAS and whatever makeup, we're okay. But yeah, there could be some districts that are really scrambling to figure out how to help kids work through this and get them the grades now that they need, because they can no longer use the MCAS.
Because if you're saying 2 math, 2 LA, 1 science, would that be like a full year of those, or 2 just
Courses.
2 courses?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so basically, what you're saying is that you might have some, not us, but other districts might have an issue where a kid like failed freshman year math. Okay, I just wasn't getting that.
Yes. Yeah.
So failed freshman year math, failed sophomore year, failed junior year, and now we're like, you need 2 maths, and you still don't have one.
And you can't use the MCAS.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky how they've left us. So, more to come. So I will be bringing something forward to you for your approval once we get there. But we are getting close to having something to present regarding that.
Great. Move on to teaching and learning.
All right. So before I jump into my topic tonight, I just wanted to mention, so you had Jessica and Dawn here tonight as presenting on Universal Design for Learning. Earlier today, I met with all the UDL coaches, and I think you're probably aware of this, but we have 9 UDL coaches in the district. And so Dawn and Jessica aren't just teachers, they're also the people that are moving forward UDL in the district. And so it's a really important role, and I'm thankful for what they and the other 7 UDL coaches do. We have 2 at each building, with the exception of the high school where we have 1. And so they're leading book groups with staff, they're presenting at faculty meetings. The past 3 years, this is the first year we're not moving forward as with UDL as a major professional development goal. It is still a major goal of ours, and that's the responsibility is ultimately kind of on those coaches. And so, like I said, the book groups, there's this 365 days of UDL where they're putting those in the teachers' rooms and talking about, here's something you could try out today. So it is still a very important initiative, and they are moving that work forward. So I wanted to acknowledge the work that they're doing. And then we also talked about writing professional development, whether it be at the middle school, I think, and I know I presented to you previously, at the K-5 level, we have empowering writers working with us. And we do have teachers, and I'm not saying that people were implying this, but we do have teachers that are very skilled at writing. One of the issues that you run into is that when it's one way in this teacher's classroom and one way in this teacher's classroom, that can lead to a struggle on the student end. And so developing those consistencies, not just at grade level, but also vertically, K through 8, which is ultimately our goal, I think will lead to really enhanced performance and confidence and skills on the part of students. So I just wanted to mention that. And you heard Dr. Chamberlain earlier talk, she was going through her goals, talking about Lenny learning. And so that's what I'm talking about this evening. I was having some issues with clicking through here. So I'm just going to have to roll through. As you know, one of our strategic plan goals is enhancing K-12 social emotional supports. And so what I'm talking about tonight is brain health literacy. Back in, well, actually, let's start with why brain health literacy. So according to the Centers for Disease Control, 44% of teens struggle with mental health. 75% of mental illness starts in adolescence, and 50% of those who struggle actually never seek help. And we know from a lot of studies that brain health literacy leads to heightened awareness, actually seeking help, and ultimately better outcomes. The term, you'll notice, so there's often what we're accustomed to seeing is mental health literacy, and there's this shift with Lenny Learning, and we're in agreement with it, to this brain health literacy. The term brain health literacy implies that these conditions are physical and they're treatable, and so that is a shift in kind of thinking about mental health literacy and applying it as brain health. So in June of 2023, Dr. Chamberlain, Principal DeLongchamp, and I met with Lenny Learning, which at the time was called Brain Health Boot Camp. And they had information about information that could be shared with high school students to talk about suicide, to talk about mental health. At the time, we were very intrigued by it, and they showed us the opportunities. They now are called Lenny Learning, to build customizable lessons that are aligned to state standards. That information in their teaching lessons, and their lessons were vetted from a variety of sources, and I'll talk about those in a minute, that are research-based. And in addition to that, we could employ district surveys for students that would measure those different dimensions that you see on the screen there: school safety, school expectations, social awareness, et cetera, et cetera. So we started with Lenny Learning this past year, and we launched in October 11th. And I apologize if you probably can't see it on the screen, but hopefully you can see it on the paper in front of you. But to this point, our teachers, since October 11th, have created 273 lessons. The estimate on the part of Lenny Learning is that 819 hours were saved by creating these lessons. And I'll show you a little bit about how those lessons are created. 1,224 student surveys were used in that administration of the middle school and high school level, and we have 120 staff that were active. The 120 staff that are actively using Lenny Learning is to me one of the more remarkable pieces of this. We initially only rolled this out and gave professional development training to our PE and health teachers, our nurses, our counselors, administrators, and our advisors for our community program at the high school. And after that professional development, which was relatively brief, it only takes like 30 minutes to really understand how to use Lenny Learning. A lot of teachers those people that were at that training were sharing it with their teachers, the fellow teachers, and word kind of spread. So you'll see on the list, there are a number of teachers. This is not just social emotional learning. You see teachers at the high school, content teachers that are creating these lessons. So, you have up here gratitude and goals, warm winter wishes, more lessons on the next page around STEM challenges, understanding substance abuse. We have teachers pre-K through 12 that are using the lessons that are throughout with all kinds of different purposes, decoding advertisements. So I put a sample lesson up here on the board, or up on the screen, which is the slide that's entitled Sample Lesson. And this was basically what happens, this is called Lenny Learning. So their AI, which is a llama that is connected to them. The content within Lenny Learning is vetted by Harvard Medical School, Yale University, Columbia, University of Pennsylvania, MGH, Dartmouth, Mount Sinai. And so we as a district, and I know a lot of teachers are still apprehensive about AI. The beautiful thing about Lenny is that anything that you're searching for, if you want to create a lesson, is controlled within resources that were created by those organizations that I just mentioned. So if I'm a teacher going in to create a lesson, which I've done, you say what age lesson you want to create a lesson for, what the goal of your lesson is. The amount of time you have. It can be, I've got 5 minutes, I've got 30 minutes, I've got 60 minutes, what have you. What strategies you want to use, what materials you'd like. You'd like to have videos, readings, discussion, any accommodations that you need to consider. And within 30 seconds, Lenny will spit back out a lesson with all those items that you see kind of on the right-hand side. So that's the teacher guide that includes videos. There's some amazing videos. I was looking at a lesson that somebody created on understanding differences. There's an amazing video on dyslexia and what it's like as a student who has dyslexia, what letters kind of look like. So we've had a variety. As I mentioned earlier, the number of lessons that have been created and used in pre-K through 12 classrooms. And so this has been a very exciting development for those teachers. The last thing I'll put up here that I just want to discuss is the annual climate lesson. Excuse me, the annual climate survey. This is given at the middle school and at the high school. This first screen shows those 10 different dimensions and where we rank on those. And this is all schools combined. And by all schools, I mean middle school and high school. And you look at school engagement, and I believe is it a 4.4? I didn't bring my glasses.
I think it's 4.2.
4.2, which is, less than what you'd want it to be. It's out of 10. One of the things we talk about with Lenny, and we see this in vocal data across the state as well, is school engagement is not one of those things that is really high in a lot of schools across the Commonwealth and across the country. So at first glance, you look at that and say, oh my gosh, we're rough in school engagement. When we compare ourselves to other school districts, we're right in the ballpark. So that's where we rank on, again, middle school and high school. We can break this down by school. And then the next slide on here is actually breaking down, just looking at supportive relationships exclusively, and then you can see how we ranked in that. And then the last thing I'll mention is Lenny is the little llama that's in the corner here. If you're a teacher or an administrator looking at this, you can actually click on Lenny, and I did this earlier this week. You can click on him and say, where are we struggling, and what are some of the things we can do in engaging relationships and supportive relationships? And the AI will then spit back out some different strategies, some teaching recommendations that teachers can use, that administrators can use. So it's been, I remain, as I mentioned earlier, very apprehensive about AI, because I think it is a really big, wide swath, but this is a controlled AI, and teachers have been really fond of it. It's saved them a lot of time searching aimlessly on the internet and pulling together these materials. So I just wanted to share that briefly with you, how powerful this has been. And again, when we went into it, we were looking kind of exclusively at social emotional supports, but there are a lot of things. Our PE teachers, I don't know if you can see it. Spike balls in there. Our PE teachers are using it. Our science teachers are using it. And there's a lot of STEM lessons in it. So it's been really powerful.
Yeah. Any questions?
That's great.
Business and financials.
Right, so I've provided a year-to-date budget report for the FY25 school year dated January 2nd, 2025 for your review. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And I've also provided a listing of budget transfers dated January 2nd and January 8th, 2025 as presented between the same series and between different series for which I'm seeking your approval.
You just printed it today. That's why the date is.
I know.
Okay.
I do it every time.
I'll seek a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to approve the list of transfers dated January 2nd, 2025 as presented by the business manager.
I'll second.
Can we do it's January 8th?
Oh, sorry. I will make a motion to approve the list of transfers dated January 8th, 2025 as presented by the business manager.
And I'll second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we do not need executive session tonight?
We do not.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Have a great night, everyone.